Uh, I don't. There's like a group of American doctors,
So listen to this again. Now
for
that I
example,
fact checked it for
Macron
you.
would announce that he will impose an embargo in Israel's
By the
arms,
way,
and then
fuck
Israel goes
Macron.
and
Oh, by the way, guys, fuck Macron for the embargo on Israel. This is it's insane. It's insane.
bombs the French oil facilities in Lebanon. How is that defending themselves? I don't. There's like a group of American doctors who were in Gaza and came back, and they reported seeing tens of children with sniper shots in their heads and necks. How is that defending themselves? Just a couple.
Okay, so this one I've heard this one as well, and this one seems to be more based on uh, true claims, unless you guys have any information for me that it's not. However, we don't have, for some reason, these doctors. So it is true that some doctors have claimed this, multiple doctors. Um, for some reason, they have taken zero pictures or gathered zero evidence of this. They're just claiming it. So I don't know why, if that's the case, they didn't gather information regarding this. Um, However, okay, so let's look at this. I'm going to read. Several doctors and healthcare workers have recently returned from Gaza and have reported observing numerous Palestinian children with gunshot wounds to the head, suggesting that these injuries were inflicted by sniper fire. For instance, Dr. Ferouz Sidha, who worked in Gaza, noted that he encountered children with such wounds almost daily, leading him to suspect intentional targeting rather than accidental collateral damage. Similar reports from other healthcare workers include accounts of preteen children admitted with single, precisely placed gunshot wounds, often fatal. These reports have been supported by medical scans, and photographs. Okay, so there are medical scans and photographs with major media outlets covering these allegations amid ongoing investigations and denial from Israeli military regarding the intentional targeting of civilians. Okay, so this is something that needs to be investigated. I'm going to. So there are some people have been claiming it. I don't know statistically in an area where so many people are dying because of the high population density, given that we have so many bullets hitting other places, right? So you have bullets and other military equipment, uh, actions being taken. So what is statistically, because you have the body, so you have a whole bunch of people who have their gunshot to the head or different parts of their body. So given that so many people are dying, you are going to be able to find a high number of people that they have been taking the shot to the head. But and a lot of doctors might have noticed that. I don't know statistically, is it is it even if randomly you're taking the shot in many different places of your body, would a small percentage of them will be taking it to the head, will be dying from taking the bullet to the head, and even a small percentage of a large number ends up going to be a large number. So I don't know. This needs to be investigated. Of course, this needs to be taken seriously. I'm not saying this is false. It could be true. I'm saying we should withhold judgment to see if the numbers of such injuries, death from this kind of injury, suggests that some Israeli soldiers are doing such a thing, right? But here's the thing: I wouldn't be surprised if we have bad soldiers on the Israeli side, just like we have bad soldiers in every freaking army. So I don't know. Again, so I'm not going to deny that this is happening. I'm not going to also accept it. I think this needs more investigation and it should be taken very seriously. And if it's happening, I would not consider that to be a systemic policy of the IDF. I would consider this to be more likely if this is proven to be true. If it is proven, yeah. So yeah, we don't. Again, I'm not saying we have proof. I'm not. I'm just saying I'm not rejecting it and I'm not accepting it. I want more investigation to be done on this, right? But if eventually we do have investigation that shows that some Israeli soldiers were deliberately doing some heinous acts, that just shows that the Israeli military has bad soldiers like every other army on the fucking planet. It does not prove a systemic policy from top down by the IDF. In the same way, we have proof, for example, that the Hamas itself has a systemic policy from the top down within their charter, within their methodology, within their goals to kill civilians. So remember, one side probably has some horrible soldiers as part of the entirety of army. Like you will never have an army that is purely made out of good soldiers. Okay, you're never going to have that. So D is saying the skulls were intact, fake. I don't know if I'm seeing that. D, if you could send me that. I don't know if this is based on what I'm seeing. There are doctors that are claiming this. So reports from some healthcare workers. I don't know how reliable these doctors are. Okay, I don't know. And I'm saying that a lot of this has gotten a lot of attention by the media. I'm glad that these things get a lot of attention by media. These things should not be ignored. Just because we're on Israel's side, we should not act like Israel, every single Israeli soldier is just the best person on the planet and would not commit war crimes. You have to understand that war crimes will happen no matter how much you try for them not to happen. War crimes will happen from your side. Even if you have the most moral army in the world, you will have war crimes on your side. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And the question is, can you accuse the entirety of the IDF with having certain bad soldiers doing some war crimes? So, guys, even if we find out that this is fake, you have to understand that given the scale of this war, there are going to be some examples of war crimes by individual soldiers on the Israeli side. Like, even if this one is fake, even without any investigations, it's almost guaranteed that even if it's never find out, it's almost guaranteed that some Israeli soldiers, in some places, are going to be committing war crimes. But you have to be careful for them not to use that to brush the entire Israeli military with the same brush, as if the entire thing is a criminal institution. It's not. The IDF is the most moral army on the planet. The IDF is the military force that has done more than any army in the world to try to reduce civilian casualties. If your standard for the IDF is absolute zero war crimes by every single soldier, then that's the standard that no army in the world is going to ever be able to meet. That's a holding Israel's army to a standard that we don't hold any army in the world to. That's a double standard that we always have for the Jews, apparently, but not for anyone else. Anyways, let's continue. So Nastasia is saying no credibility from the doctors reporting. Compare their statements on Ukraine, where they state humanitarian doctors don't judge morality. Okay, so again, based on what I'm saying, this hasn't been investigated as deeply as it should be. So I'm not saying that these doctors are telling the truth, but be careful. We shouldn't be claiming that they're lying either. We should be saying, as of right now, our position should be, I think, that we don't know, that we're going to withhold judgment until there's more investigation. That's the position I think we should be having regarding this right now. Okay, so let's not just make this a black and white thing. Okay, so let's continue.
A couple of days ago, we saw a little kid being shot by a drone. His family came to friend to help him, and then they were all killed. How is that defending itself? I mean,
So this one I could not fact check because he did not specify. He wasn't very specific about what he's talking about, so I was not able to fact check this one.
I hear it, but I just don't see it.
But do you believe that fundamentally Israel believes it is acting in self-defense?
Israel can believe whatever they want. I'll tell you a story that actually can tell you exactly how Israel. I'm from Egypt.
It's important for you to consider the motivations and the justifications and the intentions on the other side. When you say Israel can believe whatever it wants, you're suggesting that the intentions don't matter. Even if you consider Israel to be evil, you have to care about their intentions if you're trying to motivate them to do something else, even if they were evil.
Egypt, you understand this? You know this, right?
Yeah.
April 1970, there was an attack of an Egyptian school in the middle of Delta, 100 kilometers.
Wait, what year? What year?
There was an attack of
Hold on, let's go.
You don't know what they want. I'll tell you a story that actually can tell you exactly how Israel. I'm from Egypt. You understand this? You don't know this, right?
Yeah.
April 1970, there was an attack.
1970. Okay, so guys, remember when he says April 1970, anything he says from now is invalid, because whatever examples he's going to give me of Israel is doing something wrong is going to be anecdotal. Let me actually look at his example. And you have to remember, when he says 1970, you're talking about any tragedy that now you give me as an example is going to be the fault of the Arab countries that started the war. Let me actually let him give you that example while I bring up some
defense.
Israel can believe whatever they want. I'll tell you a story that actually can tell you exactly how Israel. I'm from Egypt. You understand this? You don't know this, right?
Yeah.
April 1970, there was an attack of an Egyptian school in the middle of Delta, 100 kilometers from where my parents were born. It's called Bahr al-Bakr. On that day, Israel bombed a school, killing 30 students. Now, what was so interesting going back in history, this was the headline of the New York Times of the day, and it says 30 pupils in Egypt said to die in raid. Said to die, the passive voice. Which raid? Who did the raid? We don't know. And then you read it. This is Moshe Dayan. He was the defense minister of Israel at the time. He said, the target had been a military structure that had been photographed from air both before and after the raid. What could have happened here was irresponsibility of high orders from the Egyptians that they set aside a floor or some room for civilian purposes such as a school. Now, do you believe that? You don't, right? It's
well, why? Okay, first of all, why don't you believe that? Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But let's say, for example, it's not true. Let's say that Israel made a whole bunch of mistakes in the 1970s when they were during the war of attrition. So okay, so it's called the war of attrition in 1967, from 1967 to 1970, where Israel and Egypt were locked in a prolonged, conflict. But let's see. Okay, so this war, the war of attrition and the ongoing conflict between Israel and Arab countries were largely initiated by Arab states' refusal to recognize Israel and their aim to reclaim territories lost in the 1967 Six-Day War, right? So basically, what he's talking about, let's say, for example, let's accept that during those times, when Israel was defending itself, sometimes it did some certain things that was not good. Like, no, it was not perfect. You understand that even without checking, I could guarantee you that in every single war where Israel was defending itself from annihilation, even without checking, I could guarantee you that Israel did certain things that were not right. How could it get a perfect score? Of course, it's not going to get a perfect score. Of course, Israel is going to make mistakes when in war. So what you do is that you go, as a critic of Israel, go find those specific mistakes and mention those anecdotes as a way to suggest that the entire war, the entire Israel defending itself, is unjustified. But look at the larger picture. Instead of giving me anecdotes, why was Israel in that war anyways? Israel, it was in that war because Arab countries were attacking Israel. So those children in that school died because these Arab states refused to accept United Nations proposal to make Israel a country and to have Palestine as a country, and they were trying to annihilate Israel. The reason why we had the 1948 war and the 1967 war that we continued to all the way to 1970 is because they were attacking Israel, and Israel was trying to defend itself. Israel was justified to defend itself from annihilation. When defending itself, did it make mistakes? Yes, it made mistakes. Did some civilians die that could have been spared if Israel didn't make certain mistakes? Yes. But Can you understand that the main aggressor were the Arab countries trying to annihilate Israel? That none of these civilians would have died if they could just accept Israel being a country in that region, and they could have been neighbors to Israel, and they would have benefited from having Israel as a neighbor? That Israel as a neighbor would have been brought them peace and prosperity if they just accepted it and decided to do trade with it? Oh yeah, by the way, Amir is saying don't forget to like the stream. So the blood of those, even if Israel made a mistake and civilians died that could have been spared, the blood of those children is on the leaders of the Arab countries that decided to start a war to begin with. Israel didn't want a war. Israel didn't even want a war. Israel was ready to live in peace with its Arab neighbors. Of course, when you attack it, and then when they're trying to defend themselves, they're going to make mistakes. Of course, that's going to happen. Guys, be careful when you're defending Israel, not to act like Israel doesn't make any mistakes. Don't try to make Israel like purely made out of good decisions all the time. Okay, just make it clear. Just look at the timeline of what happens and show that every single war started with the Arabs attacking, with the Arab countries attacking, and every attempt, every serious attempt to end the war and have peace started with Israel. Just remember, just tell them that. Tell them like, okay, yeah, Israel made a mistake here, but why do we even have a war? We have a war because the Arab countries constantly wanted to eliminate Israel. Even up to this day, they don't like the Palestinians. Now, Saudi Arabia have given that up. Jordan has given that up. Egypt has given that up. But the reason why we still have war is because the Palestinians refuse to accept having Israel as a neighbor. This is why we have so much death and destruction. Israel doesn't want war. War is being brought to Israel. War is being forced upon Israel. Israel wants peace. But let's continue.
Ridiculous. And the fact is that the New York Times then, same as New York Times there, covering for it. But there was one thing that caught my attention. They said no mention was made of the use of napalm in the attack. I said, why would we have such a disclaimer? It's because 3 months ago, Israel bombed a civilian metal plant, killing 70 workers with napalm. So this, when I hear Israel defend itself,
let me check this as well.
Israel bombed a civilian metal plant, killing 70 workers with napalm. So this, when I hear Israel defend itself, when I hear the IDF, they're liars. And I'm sorry to say, but they are.
Do you categorize what Hamas has been doing, particularly on October the 7th, what Hezbollah did within hours of October the 7th and carried on for the next year?
Wait, let me see if this is the case. Like, I'm not finding any specific information regarding this. Where is he getting this from? I want to fact check to see if there was a deliberate. Yeah, I'm not seeing this. This seems to be not true. There is no credible evidence. This seems to be based on nothing. I'm not seeing anything from this. Guys, have you heard of this accusation? This is a new one. This seems to be... Nope, I'm not seeing anything like this. He said 6 months ago? There is nothing. Where is he getting this?
Categorize what?
So such a disclaimer. It's because 3 months ago, Israel bombed a civilian.
Okay, 3 months ago.
Metal plant, killing 70.
Why doesn't Piers Morgan have like a fact-checking person behind the scene doing what I'm doing here right now? Like, he's just going to say that? I'm not finding any specific information about Israel using napalm in a metal plant 3 months ago. There's nothing here. There's absolutely nothing. Guys, have you heard of this? Why is this not being fact checked? Like this video has almost 2 million views, and he just says this to 2 million people, and nobody comes and double checks whether he just says that, and people are just there's like, this is one of the biggest shows ever. Like Piers Morgan Uncensored is one of the, I mean, I'm pretty sure they could hire a fact checker behind the scene to just double check this so that he doesn't just spread lies on the show with 2 million followers, 2 million viewers. Like I'm doing this. Why is Piers Morgan doesn't have some assistants or somewhere doing what I'm doing here? Like, we're such a small channel, and I can do this very easily. Why is Piers Morgan doesn't have an expert researcher right next to him, making sure that he checks everything this man is saying? What the hell?
Workers with napalm. So this, when I hear Israel defend itself, when I hear the IDF, they're liars, and I'm sorry.
Oh, they're liars. Okay, so here's the thing. He's saying because he doesn't believe them about that story or this story, everything else that IDF says must be a lie. So I don't understand. This is just pure insanity when it comes to trying to decide. So he's so biased. Guys, I don't like, we are against Hamas here on this channel, okay? But for example, when I hear a report from Hamas, I'm not going to say that, okay, Hamas, this is false information because Hamas is saying it. I'm saying this has to be checked and verified. But I'm not going to make my conclusion of a claim being wrong just because. So for example, when I don't trust Bassem Youssef. I'm not going to say because Bassem Youssef is saying it, then it's false. I have to go fact check it. Maybe he says something that is correct. I don't know. But the lack of, if you think a person or an institution or a group lacks credibility, that doesn't mean what they're saying is necessarily false. It just means that you actually have to fact check what they're saying.
Sorry to say, but they are.
Do you categorize what Hamas has been doing?
Guys, did any of you find what he was saying? Because I am getting nothing from 3 months ago regarding a metal plant being bombed with napalm or whatever like that. I'm seeing nothing. So if you guys are noticing that, no, Soha is saying no, because it's weird, because this claim that he's making, unlike every other thing that he said, even the lies that he's saying, is based on a true story that he's just misrepresenting. But this one is just, nothing is showing up for this one. Maybe I'm not searching in the right place. This is weird. This last one was weird.
Doing, particularly on October the 7th, what Hezbollah did within hours of October the 7th and carried on for the next year, what the Houthis have done, a lot of it orchestrated by, doubtless, the Iranian regime. Do you categorize that as resistance, as freedom fighting?
Mm-hmm.
Or are there elements of all those groups who are genuinely terrorist in their thinking?
No, someone's a terrorist is other one's.
Yeah, but how you categorize it.
How I categorize.
So, guys, when you say someone's terrorist and someone else's freedom fighter, then in that point, I want to see if you just consider them to be moral monsters or not. I don't care about the categorization of if they're terrorist or not terrorist. Okay, at that point, if you want to play around with the definition of, okay, well, someone else is terrorist. Okay, I don't care. Maybe they're not terrorists, or they're disgusting. Like, for example, based on the definition of terrorism, the Nazis were not terrorists because they were the official state of a country. So the main question should not necessarily be, is it terrorism or not terrorism? I think the main question should be whether this is morally disgusting or is it just justifiable? Because there are so many disgusting crimes against humanities that doesn't fit under the legal definition of terrorism. So maybe just throw that question away and ask them if you condemn this or not, like whether, instead of asking them if this is terrorism or not.
Categorize it. I mean, like, I'm an American citizen. Of course, I don't want to come back and find the FBI.
Oh wait, what? Let's go back.
are the elements of all those groups who are genuinely terrorist in their thinking.
Oh, someone's a terrorist is other one's
Yeah, but
hero.
how you categorize it.
How I categorize it? I
Yeah.
mean, like I'm an American citizen. Of course, I don't want to come back and find the FBI raiding my house. So yes, of course, the terrorist.
Oh, so okay. So by the way, Black Angel is saying he meant 3 months before the attack on the 1st of April in 1970. Okay, so I'm not sure if he's talking about that. Let me see. What about? I mean, then we're gonna get back to a whole bunch, a different era, a different time period where, I mean, even back then, Israel's standard when in warfare was much better than the Arab countries, but Israeli aircraft used napalm bombs during the attack. Okay, yeah. So back then, the standards were even lower for everyone than they are now. And back then, Israel today has much higher standards than back then. But yeah, so we're going back to the war of attrition, which is a war started by the Arab countries trying to annihilate Israel. And back then, to be fair, Israel back then had a really high standard compared to the Arab countries, but their standards back then was not as high as their standards today. And to be fair, no one's standard back then was as high as the standards today. So this is a very unfair, so the fact that Bassem Youssef has to go find examples like this and from the 1970s, a war started by the Arab countries, and then finding some mistake by Israel back then in response to it defending Israel from absolute annihilation, shows that their hands are so empty for examples today that they have to go back to the 1970s. This is actually a compliment to Israel's standards of war today, where even when you want to do anecdotal evidence to paint the entire Israeli military with the same brush, you are so empty with examples today that you have to go back 50 freaking years to find examples to try to make us hate Israel. That's actually a compliment to how much Israel standards has improved over the years. This is great progress, guys. Keep it up.
Did you believe that?
Well, at the advice of my lawyer, I would say
Well, no,
that they're terrorists.
I don't think you'd be banned from going back to America.
You
You said
think?
they were
You
terrorists.
know what happened?
So here's the thing. Now look at this. Look at the way he is being told if he considers Hamas to be a terrorist, right? And he says, at the advice of my lawyers, yes, they are terrorists. So that means he's saying that he doesn't consider them to be terrorists, right? So listen to this part. He is basically saying he doesn't consider. If you say at the advice of my lawyers, I'm gonna say they are terrorists. That means that you don't consider them to be terrorists,
Of
right?
all those groups who are genuinely terrorist in their thinking.
Oh, someone's a terrorist is other one's
Yeah, but
hero.
how you categorize it.
How I categorize it? I
Yeah.
mean, like I'm an American citizen. Of course, I don't want to come back and find the FBI raiding my house. So yes, of course, the terrorists.
Did you believe that?
The FBI does not come raid your house for saying Hamas is not a terrorist. This is an absolute insane lie. United States has the best standard for freedom of expression. You have to be absolutely insane and ignorant to think that FBI will be raiding your fucking house for saying Hamas is not a terrorist group. If that was the case, FBI would have to be working overtime right now, raiding the house of thousands of American citizens that recently came out in protest, supporting Hamas, considering Israel to be a terrorist, considering all of this Hezbollah and Hamas to be resistance. Why is, for example, Mehdi Hassan not being raided by the FBI? Do you know how many people in the United States have openly came and claimed that Hamas and Hezbollah, these are resistance groups, freedom fighters, and it's Israel that is a terrorist? Nothing happened to any of them legally for saying that. Nobody's being raided. What are you? What? Yeah. So do you think the idiot college kids are braver? Yeah. What an absolute coward. But also, you are saying that you're managing to be a coward, but also showing to us that you don't consider Hamas to be a terrorist group at the same time. Whose house gets raided in the United States for saying Hamas is not a terrorist group? What are you talking about? There's look at, is this guy is he an American? Did he just say he's an American citizen? Hold on.
don't want to cover one's
Yeah, but
hero.
how you
Well, someone's a terrorist is other one's
yeah, but
hero.
how you categorize it.
How I categorize it? I
Yeah.
mean, like I'm an American citizen. Of course, I don't want to.
Oh my, he's an American citizen. You ungrateful motherfucker. Like, you are been given the citizenship of one of the freest countries in the world, with a standard for freedom of speech that almost no other country enjoys. And as an American citizen, instead of being grateful for that, instead of being thankful for that privilege, for that right, you're making false accusations against your country, this country that has given you all these rights and freedom for you to enjoy. Instead of being grateful and appreciative, you're basically going to make a false accusation that FBI is going to raid your house for your opinion. What an ungrateful mother! Oh my god! What an ungrateful piece of shit! You shouldn't have been given the citizenship. You shouldn't have been given an American citizenship. If you are going to be this ungrateful for the freedom, for the rights and freedom that comes with your American citizenship, you shouldn't have been given an American citizenship. Look at this motherfucker. Unbelievable. I get so angry when a country is generous and welcoming enough to accept you as a citizen with open arms, and giving you all these rights and freedoms and all the privileges that all other citizens enjoy, doing so much for you. And what do you do in response? You shit on that country and make false accusations against them. This is so disgusting. This is so vile. You shouldn't have, the citizenship has been wasted on you. You shouldn't have been given American citizenship.
I'm gonna come back and find the FBI.
Yeah, but by the way, this is a fucker that has run away from Egypt for prosecution. Look at this. This Bassem Youssef, for his comedy, so he's an Egyptian American, so he has Egyptian citizenship and American citizenship, and he had to run away from Egypt because they don't enjoy the same level of freedom of speech in Egypt that they enjoy in America. So he's pretending something to be true about America, something that he has experienced in Egypt. He gets to say the things in America that he doesn't get to say in Egypt. And instead of being grateful, because he gets rated for his opinion in Egypt, not in America. So he's projecting his experience in Egypt on America. Like that, doesn't he? Shouldn't that give him a moment of reflection that I came to United States as refuge from Egypt because they were attacking me, they were after me in Egypt for my opinion, and it's the false accusations that he's making about United States. It comes from your original country, Bassem Youssef, from an Arab country, from a Muslim country. That's not the standard in the United States. That's the standard from your country of birth. You motherfucker. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.